Hi, Eliot. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
Alrighty. So, as we talked about before, we're coming to the end of our work together today. And this session is just a chance to reflect on everything that you've accomplished in your life so far. You know, how you're feeling about things wrapping up and how you'll continue to grow going forward from here. So it's totally normal for this part of the process to bring up mixed feelings, you know, sometimes excitement, sometimes a bit of hesitation, but of course we'll take it step by step like we have been. Alrighty, so let's start by revisiting the goals we set at the beginning. So I've got the goal attainment scale here. Just to refresh, we scored from -2 to +2, where 0 means the expected level of success. +1 or +2 means you exceeded those expectations, and the negatives show areas where things didn't progress as we hoped. So your first goal was to improve work-life balance by leaving work on time at least 3 times a week. So how do you feel like you did there?
I feel good. I feel like I've been implementing some of the strategies we used to kind of get into the mindset of whenever it's time for me to go, it's time for me to go.
Perfect.
So I've been leaving on time.
You've been leaving on time. Good, good. So that sounds like a solid, +1. Maybe even a +2, depending on how consistently you've been doing that. I remember when we started, you rarely left before 8 p.m. So it's good that you're leaving on time. The second goal was to spend more quality time with your family on the weekends. So you mentioned recently that you've been doing Saturday family breakfasts, and you even made it to your daughter's soccer game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So that is really great. I'd mark that for, as a +1 at least. It's a big shift from where things were at the beginning. And the last goal was to manage the work-related anxiety without it affecting your sleep. So you've been practicing, the mindfulness, and you're keeping that worry log, right? That journal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. I'd give that like a +1 too. So it sounds like, we're beyond that expected level for all of those goals, which is really great. Really great.
Mm-hmm.
So hearing all of this, what's it like for you, knowing we're at this point where our work together is coming to a close?
It's kind of bittersweet, I guess you could say. Like, it's nice to know that you've helped me enough to the point where I'm able to kind of go off on my own and utilize the strategies that you've taught me to just be able to adapt. And when things change, like, I'll be able to look back at what I learned from you and change to make sure that I'm not going back to overworking and not having enough time for my family and all that. And so I'm really glad that you were able to help me on that front, but it is also sad that that it's over. I've gotten comfortable. Like, this is one of the only places where I've become like super comfortable in expressing things like this, and it's nice to have a space, like a safe space like this, that isn't just me and my wife.
That's really great to hear. That makes me really happy because I always want this place to feel safe and open and comfortable. So that's really good. Excuse me. So let's see here. I've really enjoyed working with you. I can see how committed you've been, and that kind of effort, makes a huge difference. I think you're already feeling that difference, which is really great. So something I like to do during the ending is it's just a small reflection ritual. I invite clients to think of one word or phrase that sums up your journey, something that captures your growth or where you are now, as there anything that comes to mind for you?
I guess I probably just have to say balance. I feel like whenever I first got here, everything was kind of out of whack. Like I wasn't able to maintain everything I needed to maintain. I wasn't able to keep composure of the relationships that I had with my family and with my kids and work. And now I feel like I'm able to balance everything out using everything I've learned from you.
That's great. That makes me really happy. I agree, it really captures your shift from the high stress mode you were in to more of like relaxed, intentional way of living. Of course, I encourage you to write that word down just as a reminder. When you're feeling maybe stressed again, just look at that word and kind of remind yourself, I got to this point, I can get there again. So now that we're wrapping up, let's look ahead. What do you think will help you maintain the gains you've made?
I feel like just making sure to go back and continue to write in my journal and continue to look at my past entries in the journal to see like the extent of my journey and just kind of see, because in the journal I've also written all of the stuff we talked about. Like I've written down like different techniques that I can utilize, like box breathing, stuff like that, in case I get too stressed out while I'm at work. So just going and looking at that as kind of not an instruction manual, but kind of like my guide to keep with my journey and to maintain balance in my life.
That's perfect. Exactly. And what are some early warning signs that things might be slipping again?
I would say just like my kids, they'll definitely notify me if I'm starting to like not spend enough time with them. If work is starting to stress me out a little more to the point where I'm not leaving when I should be, and if I start leaving later and later again, and just my stress first and foremost, I would say it's when I can feel like the amount of stress like weighing on me. I think that's kind of when it starts to pile up, and then finding that point whenever the stress starts to pile up, then I can just kind of use those techniques like I said and prevent everything from all the dominoes from tumbling down.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great insight there. And what would be your first step if you start noticing those signs?
I would definitely try to use some of the techniques we talked about, like box breathing or anything like that, like the counting in my head and making sure that I'm processing everything properly and making sure that I know, getting a better insight as to what is going on, so I can view it from all angles. And really that has helped me a lot with reducing stress, and also, like I said, maintaining my journal and keeping an eye on it, making sure I know exactly, because since I've experienced it before, I know what it's like to go from being super stressed out to not super stressed out, so I know that there's always going to be that light in the tunnel.
Exactly. So yeah, it's about having those tools that you already know work for you. You've done the hard part already, so now it's just about trusting yourself to use those strategies that you know work. Well, Eliot, it's been a privilege working with you.
You as well.
You've shown a lot of courage and honesty throughout this process. So I hope you take real pride in how far you've come.
Thank you.
Of course. And again, if you ever need support again, this door is always open. But I truly believe you're walking out of here with everything you need. So just again, take care of yourself and take that word balance, take that with you. Just remind yourself when you're feeling stressed to use that word.
Thank you.
Of course.
You
It's
have a good one.
Yeah, thank you.